Hey guys, this is going to be an exciting VOD. What I have to say is I've just reached over 100 subscribers on YouTube, so I'm very excited for this. Now, this is the newest game. It is, let me check, it is MuMyung for Ace, Air Force Team, versus this Terran, and his name is ForGG. Now this is on the map Python. It should be a very good match. And to all Team Liquiders and all those people who want to start commentaries because of me, pretty much, that's awesome. And I think that we should, if you actually get started into it, we should do some kind of joint collaboration. Now, since this is a Terran versus Zerg matchup, there's many things we'll see here. We see that it is going to be a standard build for ForGG. He is going to get his... He's not going to wall in, though, so... This is... Most Terrans don't wall in anymore. Those were the old Lost Temple days. They usually only wall in when they're going to tech fast, such as 2-port Wraith, or anything such as that. Like any kind of surprise tech. This Zerg will probably do a 12 hatch 11 pool, which is very, very standard. It's very good to get economy up very quickly. It leaves you a little bit defenseless in the early game if you don't get enough Zerglings and you don't scout, because if the Terran player rushes, then you could possibly lose quite a lot of your units and possibly your hatchery natural. So there's the expansion. He's going to get a spawning pool very shortly after this, and this is going to be a double barracks build. Very good for getting a small army in the beginning of the game, early game. So it's all very standard at this point. Overlords, just make sure that you always have your overlords scouting. Overlords are extremely useful, but lots of players, they usually don't use their overlords to scout. They just leave them at their base because they think it's safe. Don't worry if you lose a couple of overlords, especially since overlords can fly. They can go to safe places and put them at strategic places where you know your enemy will probably pass. And you'll see pro gamers let their overlords fly around very freely. Late game, they're very easy to replace. Early game, they're very essential in scouting, and they're hard to kill since Marines, there's not that many Marines early game, and you can easily dodge them usually. So this is going to be a 3 hatchery tech build. Once again, very standard build, as this is a good build because it gets your economy up very early in the game. The 3rd hatchery is there to make sure that you are able to create a sufficient amount of units, especially if you get attacked. And we see a expansion going up for the Terran. He's going to create that command center and lift it when he feels safe, and then land it at the expansion. It's a little early, but I don't think there's any problem with it. It's still pretty safe. And this expansion for MuMyung, has been finished. He's going to leave one Zergling behind to chase the SCV around. This is going to give ForGG something to micro. Usually when someone's microing something, they're going to be a little bit more distracted, and their build order will be a little bit delayed or something like that. In the pro gamer level, it's not as bad, since they practice microing against Zerglings with their scout SCVs very often. But it's always good to leave one behind so they don't just sit there and get free scouting. They're going to have to work for their scouting. And if you have enough Zerglings, then you could try and surround the SCV and then kill it. We see an engineering bay going up. Quite early at engineering bay. It's going to be able to stop Immunalisks, though, and also get these upgrades for infantry. And the command center will be landing at the expansion very shortly. Now that those Zerglings have spotted those Marines, the Marines will start to show their teeth, per se. They're going to try and scare the Zerg into making extra sunkens that the Zerg doesn't need. You see that the Marines did retreat. They're not actually going to attack, but MuMyung has made a couple of sunkens anyways. So the Scout SCV did make its escape, knowing probably what his opponent's doing. Yes, this will be a Spire build. I'll tell you why in a second. Yep, it's a Spire. This is because when you're doing lurkers, you usually get your Hydralisk Den halfway through when your lair is finished. This is so that as soon as your lair finishes, your Hydralisk Den finishes, and you can begin researching the lurker aspect as soon as possible. So that's why this is going to be a Mutalisk build, and that's how the Terran was able to scout that he needed turrets, and that it wasn't going to be a fast lurkers. Both of them are very standard, though. You could do lurkers first, or then Mutalisks to do a little bit of pressure on the enemy. And as you're doing this pressure, you take the time to expand, and also tech to lurkers. We see a pretty late Academy at this point. He was spending his minerals on expanding, and he has a lot of Marines there. Whoa, that's a lot. That's a lot of Marines. You're going to see that these Marines are going to be very useful in attacking early game and fending off Mutalisks, though I'm not quite sure if they are going to wait for medics before they do anything. The Zerg player is getting some more Sunkens and creep colonies. MuMyung, his Spire is almost complete. Right now he's saving his money so that as soon as the Spire is complete, he can create 9 or so Mutalisks and do as much damage as possible. But missile turrets are already coming up. There's one thing that programmers have to be wary about, is that sometimes a Zerg player will feint Mutalisks. If a Terran player sees a Spire, of course he's going to make turrets, which cost 75 minerals each. He's probably going to create 3 or 4 per expansion. That totals to around 600 minerals probably. And that's a lot of minerals. And if you feint Spire, which means you do a Spire, and then you don't actually go Spire, you don't actually go Mutalisks, you go lurkers, that's also a good strategy to try and fake out your opponent. But you're also going to have to spend some minerals to do that, and it's sometimes risky. If your opponent is very good at scouting, you can't do that. So you see right here that these turrets are protecting main tech buildings and factories as well as their economy line. Lots of players don't actually protect anything except for their SCVs, but you always have to make sure that everything is protected, everything that's crucial to you. And the Zerg player MuMyung is expanding at this point, and I have to pause this here.